On the season finale of the Sartorial Chef, it is pastel de carne. That is my Spanish take on a classic shepherd's pie with jicama and taco meat. Next, I'm doing a fresh avocado salad with a cilantro lime vinaigrette. And lastly, for dessert, it's fried plantains dusted in cinnamon sugar and cayenne. So why don't you pull up a chair and dine with me? Sartorial Kitchen, everybody. It is cantina time once again. I love me some Mexican food. But I thought, what's something different Mexican I could do? So I thought, why not take a classic dish and give it a Spanish twist? So I'm doing a Spanish take on a classic shepherd's pie. And I am just cutting up some jicama right now. Now jicama, it's a tuber like a potato. It's a little sweet, has a little sweetness to it, and it's a little more fibrous than a regular potato. And I'm using a knife here because it has this waxy skin that behaves a little differently than a regular potato. So you cannot use a simple vegetable peeler. You need to take your knife and just kind of run it along the sides. And we want to get all of this peel off that we can. Unlike a regular potato where you can roast it with the skin on, still with the skin, this skin is not edible. So that is the jicama. I'm just going to step that aside. Now I'm just going to cut this down the middle. And then we're going to slice it down again. We're going to end up mashing this. This is going to take the place of our potato topping like a traditional shepherd's pie. And I'm just going to dice this generously so it breaks down easier in the water. Planks and dices. That's pretty good. I've already got some water going here for these babies, so I'm just going to throw them in. Now they're a little softer than a regular potato. In fact, you can actually eat them as is. They kind of almost have the texture of an apple. And then you have the earthiness from it, but it also has a little sweetness to it, which I thought would play nicely here with my little twist I'm doing. So just go ahead and pop all of these guys in. Okay. And we're just going to let that go while we move on to the rest of our dish. I've got a skillet here and I'm just throwing in a few tablespoons of olive oil. And then I've got some vegetables here. I have an onion, some peppers, and a tomato. That's going to go into our ground beef mixture. And it's going to be the seasonings and the veggies and everything that's going to really transform this into a Mexican dish. And the onion, we're just going to peel it back. I know I've shown you guys several times how to peel an onion already, but you're going to see it one more time. Okay, that is our onion, and I'm just going to slide that right into the skillet. And I love the sound of that sizzle. When you hear that sizzle, that is how you know your pan is hot enough. Now I'm going to move on to my peppers. I'm just going to chop the top off like this, and we'll stand him up. And we'll come down the sides. You want to avoid the membrane where the core and all the seeds are. We do not need that in our dish. And then I'm going to dice these guys as well. I want everything to be the same size, so it not only cooks at the same time, but it also eats the same as well. So we're just going to cut some strips, and then turn it around and dice it. And that is the sound of my oven telling me that it is preheated. We're going to need that later when we brown our jicama topping. And there's the yellow pepper, orange pepper. You can use any pepper you want. You like green peppers, red peppers, whatever. I just think the yellow and the orange are a little more bright and colorful. So I like to use those for my dish today. And I've already got tomatoes in it, so I didn't feel like I needed the red pepper. Again, just planks and dices. Okay, there is our orange pepper. Now, I've got some garlic here, just a few cloves. And I always like to wait to throw my garlic in because it will burn, and nothing is worse than the taste of bitter garlic. I'm just going to peel these guys here. Now the trick to garlic, give it a good smash. That's going to really break it open out of its shell. And I love the smell of fresh garlic. It's a little strong, so we don't need as much of it as our other vegetables here. I'm going to run my knife back and forth along the garlic here and give it a nice fine mince. We don't want to bite into any huge pieces of garlic. Okay, that's good. That's about a tablespoon of garlic, and I'm just going to throw that on top. Then I'm going to give this a hit of salt, about a teaspoon of salt, about a half a teaspoon of black pepper, and then you're going to come in and give this a little stir. And I just want to let these vegetables cook down and get nice and tender. You can already see the onion is starting to become translucent. And the salt is also going to help break down the vegetables as well. They're going to release their own natural juices and they're going to get nice and soft. Alright guys, this is smelling so good. I wish you could be in here in the kitchen with me. These vegetables are getting nice and tender. Okay. Now in traditional shepherd's pie, a lot of times you mix in like peas or green beans or something in with the ground beef. So I thought, you know, we'll do kind of like a Mexican blend of sorts. And I like the contrast of tomatoes, and I thought they would add some nice color. And they're in season right now, so it's going to be a nice, bright, acidic note. And tomatoes do not take long to incorporate, so I'm throwing them in just before I do the meat. The other thing is the tomatoes are going to release a lot of moisture, and that's going to prevent our vegetables from getting nice and crisp. I've got a couple logs here of ground beef, just 1 pound each. This is going to make a pretty big portion here. But what I like about this dish, any kind of casserole style dish, is I can cook it in bulk, and then I can eat it the day of, and whatever's I don't eat, I can portion out in the fridge to eat throughout the week. Also, I'm using a throwaway pan, so I can always just wrap it tightly, throw it in the freezer, so I'm ready for it again. So you can also portion it into little bags and freeze it that way. So it's very versatile that way, which I love. And I'm just going to break this up here. Guys, this is a lot of ground beef, but it's going to break down for us in the skillet. And I'm rinsing my hands off. Anytime I work with raw meat, I always want to rinse my hands off to avoid cross-contamination. Now, one more time with the salt and pepper, because we've got the ground beef in here now. And I'm also going to add some taco seasoning here, because this is going to be sort of a taco meat vegetable filling instead of a traditional ground beef. And I'm doing about a couple tablespoons of the taco seasoning. I want a nice bright flavor. And for some heat, I've also got a little cayenne here. I'm going to do about a teaspoon of cayenne. I know that seems like a lot, but this is going to cook down, and it's going to be nice and incorporate it. And it's already smelling amazing, everybody. I wish you could be in this kitchen with me. Our jicama is cooked through. Our meat is just about where it needs to be as well. So I'm going to drain this. And you don't want to rinse it, but we're going to drain it, get all that water out. We do not need that. Now I've got my jicama here. I have some crema. Normally in a mashed potato, you're going to use butter, milk. So I thought we'll do some fun Mexican things here. I've got some crema. I also have some queso fresco cheese. So this is going to be nice and creamy and cheesy. Absolutely amazing. Okay, so pop this guy open. I'm going to cut this in half. And I'm just going to cube it. The queso almost kind of works like a feta. It's going to kind of break down. So I'm going to throw this into my mixture. And then we'll just go ahead and cut the rest of this guy here. We've got our cheese, we've got our crema, and I've got my handy dandy hand mixer. Now crema is almost like a heavy cream that's a little thicker. It has a nice kind of tart flavor to it, almost kind of like a cream cheese, sort of. Cross between like a cream cheese and a yogurt. And I'm going to do about half this container, I think, just to get us started. Now I salted the jicama water before I got started, but I'm going to go ahead and throw in a little more salt here, about a teaspoon of salt, and a half a teaspoon of pepper. Our meat's good. I'm going to turn the meat off. I'm going to move that from the heat. Just kind of let that melt together. And then I'm just going to come in here on a low setting. And we're just going to start to break this down. Coming together. I'm going to add the rest of this crema. You can always add more, but you can't take it out. So I like to err on the safe side at first. Okay, and that is our jicama mixture. And what's great about this, it's kind of like mashed potatoes. They're going to have a little texture to them still, which I love. I hate when everything's all one note in a dish. I love textures. Now I've got my pan here. Since this is kind of a loose dish, I'm not going to worry too much about spraying it or anything like that. I'm just going to come right in with my meat mixture here. And that's going to go on the bottom of our pan. Nice. And then I'm just going to come in here with my spatula and I'm just going to even this out. Nice even layer on the bottom. And you can see we've got everything in here, our meat, our veggies. Absolutely amazing. Just a pepper here. And And then our jicama mixture is going to go right on top. We want to get every last bit of this out. Now you could simply eat this as is. I mean, everything's cooked through. But I want to kind of keep with that traditional theme of the shepherd's pie. So I'm going to throw this in the oven and let it get nice and brown on top. Now let me just grab a sheet pan here. This guy looks just a little juicy here, and I'm going to kind of keep from making a mess. So I'm going to set this on a sheet pan, and it is going to go into the oven. I've got it set for 400 degrees. It's going to go in for about 20 to 25 minutes, give or take. And you want to just keep an eye on it, of course. But I'm going to go ahead and set my timer here for 25 minutes. Okay, we are back. My Mexican shepherd's pie is in the oven. And next I'm going to be working on a dressing. Alright, we are back. Our shepherd's pie is going in the oven, or pastel de carne, as you would say in Spanish. And I'm making a few side dishes, so we'll have a complete meal here. And I've got just a little bit of cilantro I'm chopping up. And I just want to finely mince this. Cilantro is a little strong and has kind of a soapy taste, so I'm not going to use too much of this. I've just got a couple tablespoons here. And this is just a fun little green salad I'm making here. I'm starting with the dressing, which is going to be a cilantro lime dressing. I just want to make sure I finely mince this. And what I'm going to do, you know, I love salads with chunky fruits, chunky vegetables. So I've got some avocado, I have a chayote, and I have some tomatillos. So it's all going to be different shades of green. It's going to be delicious, nice, fresh, bright salad. So I'm going to go ahead and throw my cilantro into the bowl here. And I love, when I'm doing salads, I love starting with the dressing. Then you can just throw everything into the dressing and toss it all together, instead of dirtying another bowl to make the dressing, and it's just a lot easier this way. Now to this, I've also got some limes here. I'm just going to roll these limes first because I'm going to release some of the juices of the lime. And then I'm going to take my microplane here, and we're just going to shave a little zest from the lime into our dish. What I like about the zest, it's a little oily, and you also get that sharp acidic flavor from the zest as well. So it's just going to add another note to our dressing. And I'm just going to zest one of the limes. The zest is a lot stronger than the juice itself, so we don't need quite as much of that. And then you always want to check the back of your microplane, because you'll have some guys that like to hide. A trick I like to do sometimes when I'm juicing citrus. I'll take some tongs here, and if you just put the lime in between the tongs here and squeeze from both sides, you will get every last little bit of juice out. Now this is great for limes. If you're doing like lemon that has the seeds in it, then of course you want to use like a strainer or something so you can watch for the seeds. So I'm going to get every last bit of juice out of this lime. Squeeze it dry. Nice. And I've got another lime here. Okay. Now I've also got some agave here. This is going to give us a nice little touch of sweetness. We're going to do a couple tablespoons of the agave. 2 tablespoons should do us just fine. A little salt. A teaspoon of salt. Half a teaspoon of pepper. And then I'm going to whisk this together. Very nice. And the lime is so fragrant, especially with the zest, and the cilantro just brightens up your sinuses. So good. Now, for the main components of the salad, I'm going to start with our tomatillos here. Now tomatillos, they're similar to a tomato, but they've got this little skin on the outside, so we want to peel that off. They're not quite as acidic as a tomato, and they've got kind of a little different flavor to it. And sometimes you'll see them used in salsas, like a green salsa or something like that. And I'm just going to come through here. We're going to dice these guys. Give them a good dice. Okay, that is our tomatillo. I'm going to come in here, I'm going to do the chayote next. I'm saving the avocado for last because they're on the soft side and they break down easily, and I really do not want, I want to kind of keep my avocado, I want it to kind of maintain its shape. Now, chayote is an interesting fruit. It's kind of a cross between a pear and an apple. But we want to come around here. I don't want any of the skin, because unlike an apple, you really can't eat the chayote skin. You just kind of want to come in and kind of just remove this midsection. And then again, we're going to come in here and remove the peel. That in. The chayote's a little on the bigger side, so I just got one of it. And then our avocados. Now the trick to avocados, you want to run your knife along the top here till you hit the pit. And then you just kind of go around. And then give it a little twist. And it should come right apart. Now you've got the seed here. We do not need the seed. So I'm just going to jam my knife into the seed here. And it should pop right out. Now, the trick to cutting avocados, you leave it in the skin while you're cutting it. And I'm just going to dice this like I did everything else. The other thing about avocados, I like the Haas, these dark ones here, because when they're that dark color like that, you know they're ripe. Now you should be able to come in here with a spoon and spoon this right out of here. These are kind of soft, so we're going to be delicate here, putting together the rest of our salad. Now again, if I was making a guacamole or something, I would not be so gentle with the avocados, but I kind of want them to maintain their shape. And then I'm going to come in here with my tongs. I'm just going to lightly kind of flip give everything a little toss here, because I want everything to be the same flavor. Okay, and that is my Mexican green salad. I'm going to set this aside, and And that lime juice is going to continue to break things down and make everything nice and tender. And I'm going to move on to another side. Alright, one more side dish for you guys, and that is fried plantains. Now, plantains are similar to a banana, but they usually have a thicker skin, so you kind of want to slice down the middle. And then I'm just going to pop this out. And then I'm going to give it a little slice. Okay. And what's nice about plantains, unlike bananas are usually kind of soft and mush when they're ripe. Plantains usually maintain their shape. They're nice and firm. So they're going to hold up here to the skillet. Now I've got just a little oil here in my skillet. And I'm going to give these guys a nice little sear. They're just going to get nice and crispy and caramelized on both sides. And this is a really quick dish. It only takes a couple minutes on each side, depending on how thick you slice the plantain. And since it's just me, I just went with one plantain here. Okay, time to give these babies a flip. And you can see they have just gotten nice and golden brown. It's going to be a nice little component here to the rest of our meal. And this, I guess, technically qualifies as a dessert. And what I like sometimes, I like simple desserts. And this is a simple dessert. Just a couple minutes on each side. Throw a little cinnamon sugar on it, a little cayenne for heat, and you're good to go. And what's great about the plantains, you can see them change color as they continue to cook, so you know when they're ready to flip. I know I was saying when you're frying in oil, you know because the sizzle quiets down. But you can also tell because you will see here as it continues to go up. And these guys are good, so I'm going to turn the heat off. And then I've got a little bowl here. I'm going to throw in some cinnamon sugar, about 4 tablespoons of cinnamon sugar, and then we're going to do about a teaspoon of the cayenne. You can add more if you want. I just want a little heat. I'm just going to kind of mix that together. Nice. And then we're just going to come in here, and I'm just going to kind of turn these guys over and just kind of dust them in the mixture here. And then they're going to go right onto my plate. Let me take that off the heat. And those are my fried plantains. Now we're going to plate everything up. I will see you guys in a second. Alright, time to take out our Mexican shepherd's pie. And you can see that has just gotten an amazing golden brown color on top. There's a little oil here in the pan, so it's a good thing that I used the my little tray here to catch all. And I'm just going to I'll use a spoon here. I'm just going to get a nice helping of this out. Make sure we get some of that ground beef. And I want to get some of my salad here too. Let's grab a nice little portion of our salad. And I would say we have a Mexican feast. Okay, I think I'm going to go in for the salad first. So good. The agave and the lime gives it a nice sweet acidity. The cilantro adds a nice little sort of savory note. Vegetables are nice and tender from the lime juice. They still have a little crunch. Avocados are nice. They're like butter. They melt in your mouth. So good. A nice, bright, healthy little dish. Next, we're going to come in here. Our main course. And it is piping hot. So good. Oh my gosh. The ground beef, nice and flavorful. The taco meat, the cayenne. Just kind of hits the back of your mouth. And then you have the sweetness from the jicama here. You still get that like mashed potato note. Has a little texture to it. Browning it on top just adds another depth of flavor. So good. There's vegetables and it just all comes together beautifully. Okay, lastly, dessert. I'm just going to come in here and get a little piece here. Doesn't that look good? Nice and caramelized. So good. You get a little crunch from frying it in the skillet. And then as you bite into it, it just melts in your mouth. The plantains have a little brighter flavor to them than a typical banana. And then you get that sweet heat from the cinnamon sugar and the cayenne. So good, you guys. Absolutely delicious. A fun new way to do Mexican. So, as always, you've been dining with the Sartorial Chef. Until next time.